Hello, sir. What can I do for you?
I need to use the bathroom.
Den største danske computerspilsucces til dato udkom i foråret og hedder Hitman Codename 47.
I need the bathroom.
What can I do for you?
Bathroom. I need bathroom.
Why, certainly, sir.
Where do I go for some action?
Let me just get the key.
Hitman is a popular, high-earning video game franchise by Danish studio IO Interactive following the murderous career of Agent 47, a bald, bar-coded gun for hire with an aptitude for donning ridiculous disguises. But before there were 7 sequels, over a half-dozen re-releases, mobile titles, and spin-offs, and 2 films, the franchise had to start somewhere. My name is Harvey Bodega, and in spinning the wheel of every game ever made, this time it lands on Hitman, Codename 47. Most are familiar with the Hitman series at least from seeing footage of Agent 47 killing some guard and disguising himself in their clothes, but I personally had never played any. I liked the sound of what's sometimes described as sandbox gameplay to complete missions, so I figured it was finally time to try it out. But which one? As we've noted, there's quite a few, so without reading any guidance, reviews, or details, I thought, why not the first entry? As longtime Hitman fans would tell you, I started with the title ranked so low in comparison to the rest of the series, it clocks beneath the mobile titles, most saying just to skip it altogether. Before we see if that reputation is deserved, let's see how Hitman became a franchise at all. So, in the late 1980s and early 90s, a group of Danish developers were active in the Amiga demo scene. Okay, what's the Amiga, what's the demo scene, and who are the Danish? Well, the Amiga was a family of personal computers produced by Commodore starting in 1985, sporting impressive hardware and set them a notch above their competitors in the Apple Macintosh, Atari ST, IBM PC, TRS-80 Model 4, and the ZX Spectrum. That said, in a similar story to the Sega Dreamcast, with hardware a step above competitors, few developers made the most of the Amiga's capabilities, mostly just porting software designed for other machines. However, a demo scene arose to push the hardware's capabilities, which was essentially hobbyist developers and often software pirates competitively publishing the best animations and music they could. The results were often highly stylized music videos, and some are still published with 1980s Amiga machines to this day. So, after some well-regarded demos, our group of self-taught Danish developers moved from Copenhagen to Boston in 1992 and formed a company called Zyrinx. Partnering with Scavenger & Company, a publisher also founded by Demoscene veterans, Zyrinx developed 1994's Subterranea, 94's Red Zone, and 96's Scorcher. However, after Scavenger went bankrupt in 1998, the 3 development companies for which they published had to disband: Zyrinx, Lemon, and Triton. Triton members went on to form Starbreeze Studios of Enclave, Chronicles of Riddick Escape from Butcher Bay, and Payday 2 fame, while Zyrinx and a member of Lemon formed a company called Reto-Moto and returned to Copenhagen. Before they actually developed anything, the newly formed Reto-Moto agreed to a 50-50 partnership with Danish multimedia company Nordisk Film, the oldest continually active film studio in the world, their first major success being 1907's Louis Otten, or The Lion Hunt. Today, they're ubiquitous in media production for any Scandinavians, and have invested in many game studios from Avalanche of Just Cause fame to Supermassive of Until Dawn, their first being this joint venture with Reto-Moto dubbed IO Interactive. In discussing the first project for this joint venture, it's fascinating how much the resulting game was not at all what IO intended. The 7 IO employees decided on a swords and sorcery MMO called Rex Dominus, but Nordisk requested they just cut their teeth on a simple shooter before trying anything crazy. The idea shifted to a run-and-gun style shooter inspired by John Woo films like Hard Boiled or The Killer, a remarkably similar premise to 2001's Max Payne by the Finnish developer Remedy. IO also had to consider consoles for which to develop, as despite their background in Amiga demos, their 3 Zyrinx titles were Sega Genesis or Mega Drive games, and consoles were where they had their expertise. That said, they couldn't obtain development kits for the new generation of consoles, and after seeing the 3D capabilities of the PC, they decided PCs would be the home for their next game. Now with an idea in console, IO invented a game engine called Glacier with very specific goals. Standard death animations were too static for what they had in mind, so the team workshopped a body physics system for when enemies died. After refinement to prevent ruining the frame rate, IO invented a system that allowed killed enemies to, quote, collapse based on the wound and environment, what would eventually be dubbed ragdoll physics. Now moving bodies could be a key mechanic and source of tension, catching the eye of Eidos executive Jonas Eneroth, who stepped in to produce the project. However, this dynamic, responsive system couldn't be appreciated with a run-and-gun style of gameplay. Bringing experience from overseeing production of Deus Ex and Thief, Eneroth advised IO to lean into a more methodical focus present in those two titles. So combining Eneroth's input and Lemon's experience from working on Amok, a seek and destroy game featuring open-world environments able to run on lower-end hardware, the resulting title was not a swords and sorcery MMO or a console run-and-gun shooter, but a stealth-oriented PC title with a cutting-edge physics system. Maybe that simple shooter Nordisk wanted from IO turned out to be something much more. Hitman Codename 47's trailer was released in May 2000 at E3, where Eidos had a badass lineup, the full release coming 6 months later on November 19th in the US, December 1st in Europe. Released at a AA price of £40 or $30, reviews were all over the map, from 2 of 5 stars from Computer Game Strategy Plus, 5 of 10 from Edge Magazine, 5.2 of 10 from GameSpot, to a 9.5 from EP Daily, and the equivalent of an 8 out of 10 score from Eurogamer, GameSpy, and Tech TV, averaging out to a Metacritic of 73 of 100. Those on the negative side criticized the save system, controls, game logic, difficulty, and artificial intelligence, while those on the favorable side praised the artificial intelligence, originality, and presentation. IO Interactive achieved a divisive hit, and recognizing the potential for sequels, Reto-Moto was put into hiatus, and IO began focusing on Hitman 2: Silent Assassin. Now with all the sequels and spin-offs mentioned earlier, it's fair to summarize the Hitman franchise has achieved enormous heights. But right now, it's the year 2000. The lore and innovation to follow hasn't happened yet. Let's immerse ourselves in the first entry, divisive to even Hitman fans, and see if it's worth a visit, and see how well it holds up. Okay, hurdle number 1. The game is old. Environments are often sparse, the skybox can be ugly, and some areas simply don't feel right. Check out this fountain. Identical warehouses. And does this seem like a forest to you? Because to me it looks like that Las Vegas luxury bunker. Character models are blocky, with simple talking animations, and walking up and down stairs it's not okay. If you don't like dated graphics, nothing I say is going to change your mind. It's not agelessly stylized like Jet Set Radio or Roller Coaster Tycoon. However, if we can look beyond the age at all, there's a lot to appreciate, especially for a AA studio working on a PC title for the first time. On the environment side, I'll admit outdoor areas are pretty simple, but inside, we have an intricate Chinese restaurant complete with courtyard, an eerie dock environment, a detailed strip club with a meme on the wall. Those are cool, but the near identical recreation of the Hotel Gellert from Budapest is phenomenal. We're able to enter every hotel room, go to the casino, visit the florist, and the hotel restaurant. It's gorgeous, and if you're anything like me, you're wondering if the Hotel Gellert is the basis for Wes Anderson's Grand Budapest Hotel, to which it is listed as a minor inspiration, the primary being the Grand Hotel Pup in Czechia. Fair enough, but I'm just happy that being a hitman in a Grand Budapest Hotel means our parallel is Willem Dafoe.
Did you just throw my cat out the window?
The inside environments seem like real places, complete with mundane rooms a real building would have. And what had me incredibly impressed was the working mirrors. Games now don't even bother with working mirrors. It's amazing, and they're pretty common too. Other set dressing can be a lot of fun, like the lionfish in the restaurant aquarium, a drug lord growing pot in a bathtub, trash can fires, and forklift heaven billboards, apparently located in the Cayman Islands. While most transitionary rooms are vague and boring, the more handcrafted areas where we tend to spend more time have a lot of fun details. Character models are similarly detailed. A few are ridiculous, don't get me wrong, but the average NPC looks proficient and well done, especially for the era. Badass Chinese female guards, Russian soldiers with killer fits, a swarthy bartender, a terrifying Hungarian woman, and a stripper that surely gave Y2K gamers anime nosebleeds. Look at the polygons on her, am I right? Am I right? That said, I want to spend more time on the Hitman himself, Agent 47, who went through quite a few redesigns. We had alien Benedict Cumberbatch, Richard B. Riddick, kinda French-looking guy with a widow's peak, and a guy that reminds me of the vampire from Legacy of Kain Blood Omen's opening cutscene for some reason. What's also strange is he looks different in almost every in-game asset too. For example, the inter-level illustrations are awesome, but let's compare how Agent 47 appears in them. Like, these are different guys, aren't they? He has disturbingly chapped lips and blue eyes far apart from each other. This guy has narrow brown eyes with wider, poutier lips, and the last blue-eyed guy is sort of in between, but maybe with higher cheekbones? None of them look like normal people, but in-game he appears like a standard, muscular bald guy with a gaunt face and high cheekbones. Looking different in various assets within the same game, that's also true of the series. Agent 47 will have a wider or narrower chin with or without a cleft, sunken or rounder cheeks, and seems to be completely different ages. The actors selected for the 2 film adaptations look nothing alike either, so it's honestly fascinating how recognizably different Agent 47 will appear. Even back in the first entry, I like the design. The suit, bald, barcode, it's iconic, although some of his expressions are bizarre. While most of these are fitting, even if they're uncanny, what expression is this? I guessed he had something in his eye, but it's sniping. How about this one?
May I introduce my number 1 girl, Lei Ling? She will do everything you desire and more.
I'm sure. I have a bill at the bar.
Yeah, that's what I thought, but it's the emotion sinister. So the models are expressive, sometimes too expressive, carried by their look and motion capture animations. Imagine a year 2000 game where your character model literally bends down to pick something up using a hand with fingers. This was cutting-edge stuff. Incidental animations are great, from a yawning guard to a bartender wiping, a receptionist checking for mail, a bellboy vacuuming a room. They're a lot of fun. The physics system fleshes out the word further, like walking through plants has them pushing aside, and cloth physics hold up admirably to this day. Where I, and I imagine many gamers from this era and my age, will be delighted is with the ragdoll physics, the inventive feature that got Eidos on board. Compared to real life, ragdoll physics either have this cartoonish over-rigidity or boneless floppiness, and I delight in either brand. Where we have innovated to make body behavior more realistic, science has gone too far. Sniping some guy off a fuel tank to watch him starfish fly to the ground is fulfilling in a way I can't describe, and my only complaint is that there weren't more opportunities to enjoy the havoc. On the not-so-great side, the few inter-level cutscenes are so vague it's hard to tell what's going on. Or they're modeled in-game and look fine, though the opening cutscene is stylish. I'm really fond of the little animation of 47 disarming a nuke. He drums his fingers on it like, alright, here we go. Most talking animations are incredibly simplistic. This lady has a terrible walk cycle, and either due to age or contemporary jank, seeing something weird is far from abnormal. We have some of the usual suspects in clipping, strange lighting behavior, and just some weird stuff. These happen often enough to be noticeable without being too distracting. Though having good graphics for the era is commendable, it doesn't matter to gamers playing 25 years later. But the visuals are surprisingly charming, albeit mainly for those who appreciate the look of retro games. Codename 47's audio has aged better, involving 2 individuals who'd become staples of the Hitman series. The first is Jesper Kyd, a Danish sound designer, composer, and original Zyrinx member. When Zyrinx dissolved and most returned to Copenhagen, Kyd moved to New York City and began working as a freelance video game musician. Besides composing the first 4 Hitman games, you've likely heard his work in either the first 4 Assassin's Creed games or Valhalla, the first 4 mainline Borderlands games, Vermintide 1 and 2, or Darktide. When Reto-Moto came out of hiatus to finally develop their MMO, Kyd composed with them again and has worked on a pair of television shows, over a half-dozen films including a modern score for La Passion des Jeanne d'Arc, and has won several awards including a BAFTA. I greatly respect his work and his Blues Brothers t-shirt. In Codename 47, Kyd focused the score on urban soundscapes and ethnic instrumentation, resulting in a score I wouldn't jam to in my car or whatever, but works phenomenally as a video game soundtrack. Varying from grand and bombastic to quiet and conniving, Kyd's composition obtains the beautifully subtle achievement of hugely elevating atmosphere and gameplay without seizing too much attention. It's great, and from what I've heard, not yet his best in the series, so there's something to look forward to. The other of Hitman's audio cornerstones is David Bateson. Bateson is an Englishman who holds dual citizenship in Denmark and the United Kingdom, despite spending about half his childhood in South Africa. His wonderful textured voice has a slight implaceable accent, making him absolutely perfect as Agent 47.
So, how did you end up in this mess? Colombia. From what I've heard, even the butterflies are corrupt and smuggling drugs. Clean towels for Mr. Wolf. Well, let's begin here then. Who are you? It's time to look sharp and concentrate. A good thing I brought my suit.
Well, I got a sneaky suspicion I know the line you're thinking of. I need to use the bathroom.
So perfect, in fact, that he's voiced 47 in every Hitman game, prompting fans to protest when he was almost replaced in Hitman Absolution.
It's terrible casting. Well, he's the director. You know, they should have cast Dave Bateson. Why? Wait, you mean Dave Bateson? He's never even had anything to do with this franchise. That's not the point. I'm gonna boycott this movie until they cast him. That's all I have to say on the subject.
He's also provided motion capture in every game except Absolution, as those were already provided by 47's almost new actor, William Mapother. Nothing against Mapother, he was quite intimidating as Ethan from Lost and apparently also Tom Cruise's first cousin, but he was cast as an antagonist Agent 47 has to kill in the subsequent game, so all's well that ends well. Bateson doesn't have an extensive career outside of Hitman games unless you watch Danish television or Danish Lego commercials, but what immediately caught my eye is he's Bowser in the Danish dub of the Mario movie.
Men der er lige et problem. Et menneske med et overskæg.
Several voices in a Danish film called Freddy Frogface, and the only other video game credit as Virgil in 2020's Light Matter.
Unbelievable. There's more of you. Were you a part of the public tour?
Maybe fittingly, he doesn't talk a lot in Codename 47, but when he does, it's always a treat.
This place seems quiet. Where do I go for some action?
While I'll unpack the character of 47 in the story section, his delivery is almost always deadpan, sounding socially unaware despite noir-tinged musings.
That girl has a lot of talent.
He has some of the same special sauce as J.C. Denton, responding to someone being charismatic or playful with flat, dismissive rebuttals.
I have this guy watching my car out front. How about treating him to a good time on my account?
Now I'm disappointed. I thought you were my date.
No.
Ironically, he's not suave or inconspicuous, so when there's some goofy-ass writing, his voice is so right it makes any dialogue fantastic. Bateson was the second choice for Agent 47, the previous allegedly being Dan Russell, whose lines are available in the game files. They're fine, but it's hard not to be resistant to any other actor.
He died, and that's it. Okay, let's get it on, boys. The fun never ends. They never learn. Have a nice afterlife.
As for every other voice in the game, we have some to unpack here. First, no other actors and actresses are credited, all falling under an agency, Zinkernagel and Company, of which I couldn't find online. Some voices are really good.
You are learning fast, my friend. I knew you would. Now, go and find some clothes to put on.
While others can be a bit odd. Like in the Rotterdam level, where you go to a dockside strip club with two people in it, the bartender sounds like an Australian trying to be Dutch.
If you wait for her in her dressing room backstage, she'll be right with you after the show.
The hotel florist sounds strange.
Good day to you, sir. How may I help you?
And the dentist receptionist, not so good.
I'm afraid not. Right now, he is in the casino.
Additionally, half the game takes place in either Hong Kong or Colombia.
Oh, you have found golden statue. Very nice.
Welcome, honorable guest. Every pleasure is available inside.
You bring back joy into our hearts with the return of Chiyatsuros.
Just follow later, room, my friend, and do not drool on the floor.
Although we have no way of confirming, I'll go out on a limb to say that at least most of these are not authentic accents. I'm not going to say you ought to be offended because I really don't know who voiced these people and you can decide for yourself. What I will argue is they're just not very good.
But beware, you will be crossing sacred grounds, so do not upset our guard. But find man with cocaine heart you must. He must expiate for his wrongdoings.
You're going to give my man terrible grammar, then say the word expiate? I'm not sure how appropriate the design of these Colombian natives is, Buddy, what's going on there? I didn't hate the restaurant bartender, but overall they're not so great. Consolation prize, the Chinese accents might be better than Deus Ex.
I will deal with the police in the way I deal with the slanderous press.
Weirdly, Deus Ex and Codename 47 are 2 of 3 games overseen by Jonas Enneroth featuring Hong Kong segments with bad voice acting just in the year 2000, so I'm not sure what was going on there. Other than the excellent music and eclectic acting, all other sounds are satisfying and serviceable. I'll never get sick of the stock sheathing knife sound or the silence pistol, but nothing will knock your socks off. Overall, the audio has aged pretty well, other than some of the voice acting, but I'm overall pretty fond of the music and Bateson's depiction. Frankly, for a game as old as Hitman Codename 47, there is a lot to appreciate in the presentation, and I really enjoy the feel of the game. On to the gameplay, where Hitman set itself apart. Hitman is a stealth assassination game, where you can gun people down, but your superpower is killing people and stealing their clothes, making everyone accept you're the guy whose clothes you stole. Possibly on purpose, but probably by accident, the result is really funny. As mentioned, half the game takes place in Hong Kong or Colombia, and characters reference that you're the only fucking white guy.
You have many visitors at this time of year?
No. In fact, the only other white guy here right now is in the basement.
The game sort of has it both ways, as everyone's dialogue will still reference you as the same guy, no matter what clothes you're in, but guards won't bother you if you're in the right outfits. However, as ridiculous as that logic is, it's smarter than I'm making it out to be. First, you can't steal everyone's clothes. Agent 47 can't rock a purple crop top and miniskirt, for example, but also if an outfit wouldn't be beneficial to steal, it won't be an option. In a level I'm meant to kill and replace a triad negotiator, of which everyone wonders why I'm a white guy, I can't kill and impersonate the cook. What's really cool is if someone is found dead with missing clothes, what 47 is cited wearing will have an all-points bulletin put out, a suspicious guard, civilian, or whoever being impersonated. Due to the repeated character models, I'll still be suspicious if I change from one guard's outfit into the identical other, but not if I switch into a different NPC, resulting in many types of NPCs on a level being advantageous to disguise jump. Having your victim's body get discovered is also dangerous, making hiding them, something suspicious if you're caught doing, very important. On some levels, having a body get discovered can send your target into a highly defended area or put enemies on high alert. NPCs wander too, so learning their paths is highly important. Coding stealth games is tough because formulating a satisfying yet believable system is nearly impossible. Do you use a vision cone, light and shadow, sound mechanics? Some games favor combat abilities, making the stealth feel trivialized, but Codename 47 sidesteps most of these issues with the disguise system and some pretty clever AI. In an interview with IGN, another producer working with Enneroth, Janos Flosser, expounded on enemy behavior, saying, quote, "The complex AI of the game creates natural human behavior, so NPCs have a lot of random moves. They exchange information, have senses so they can hear and see each other, use tools, etc. The fact that this is mostly true is really impressive, but I mentioned critics were split on the AI, much of the negativity resulting from those random moves Janos was referencing. NPCs are very unpredictable. You'll progress through the same level the same way, and certain enemies may react differently, which can get really frustrating. As much as Codename 47 is a stealth game, it can often play out more like a puzzle game. First, when you start a mission, you purchase a loadout of weapons and other equipment of varying availability, but you won't yet know some weapons can't be hidden, while others make more noise. On a level you want to go in guns blazing, you'll want Kevlar armor, an assault rifle, the whole 9 yards, but just maybe don't try that on a first playthrough. Going in guns blazing without knowing what you're doing, Codename 47 will feel a lot more like Codename Kid Next Door as you get your ass kicked. On the other hand, how about the hotel level? The entrance is flanked by unavoidable metal detectors, meaning if you choose any weapons other than the fiber wire, cops will just open fire on you. The logic is funny. Guards are programmed to attack if certain parameters are met, like trespassing or being caught with weapons. Sure, walking through a metal detector with an Uzi may warrant the use of force, but just walking into an employee's only closet? I just wanted extra towels. Other times you don't know what the game wants of you, so figuring it out like a puzzle is part of the level. The mission I mentioned previously where I meant to impersonate a negotiator is a great example. First, I wasn't sure I was meant to impersonate anyone. Next, when I walked into the restaurant where the meeting would take place, 47 tells the bartender he needs to go to the bathroom, which grants him the key. I'm not sure why he doesn't use the toilet, but in the bathroom, I find the option to climb out the window. These disjointed details all come together to form a solution, which feels more like solving a puzzle than completing an open-ended stealth mission. Not all are this reined in, as some levels have more options, but trying to solve what feels like a puzzle requiring very specific actions while NPCs can have unpredictable behavior can be discouraging. In that same IGN interview, characters calculate collisions and will not stick in walls and doors. We have a local pathfinder for dynamic background displacement, so characters can avoid obstacles. I will say flat out, this is often not true. Enemies can and will clip through doors, see things they're not meant to see, and occasionally just shoot you, and you won't even know why. Doors in Codename 47 have a life of their own, opening in specific directions and auto-closing to sporadically strange results. Other times, killing an enemy from stealth with a silenced weapon will make them cry out in pain, drawing other enemies, but not always. Hey, I just found him like that, I swear. A few details you'd think would be important, but I never properly figured out, is if dropped weapons or bloodstains can trigger enemies, so enemy behavior is unpredictable, making things maybe more realistic, but frustrating. To quote that retrospective from Retro Gamer I mentioned earlier, to say Codename 47 is punishing is like saying the Bugatti Veyron is just a car. True, but a gross understatement as well. The unpredictable NPCs are like drunk chess pieces capable of tottering across the board without warning, and for another, it's impossible to save mid-level, meaning the odds are always stacked against you. Simply auto-saving after the completion of a level, IO Interactive admitted not being able to save during missions was a mistake. Quote, Codename 47 really showed that we were console developers. We didn't consider a save game option. On consoles at the time, you were just given a code that would allow you to skip the levels you've already completed. I'll agree, a checkpoint system or even a single save during missions would be a huge benefit. There is this weird arcade-feeling option to continue the level after being killed 1 or 2 times, but all the enemies who sighted you are still aggressive, and you're unlikely to have an opportunity to change disguises, so it feels more condescending and unhelpful. The game is hard. Being unable to save mid-mission, expected to take a very particular set of actions with AI unpredictability, not to mention having to completely remap every control, it's tough. I have to lay out the worst example. Level 5, Li Hong's assassination. I've shown this level many times already, and I'm going to spoil how to beat it to portray how absurd it is. Your objective is to infiltrate this Chinese restaurant/brothel/triad hideout, steal a valuable jade artifact, assassinate the triad leader Li Hong, then escape. The map is enormous and requires a very specific series of actions, straying from which mostly results in an efficient death, though you can kind of cut corners here and there. So required step 1, speak to the bartender. He'll recommend you visit the brothel. Don't leave, as he'll slowly walk over to give you a flyer. Take the flyer to these 2 guards, who will let you through to the next area. Talk to this fat guy, who will let you up to the brothel. Go upstairs, talk to the madam, who will recommend apparently the only prostitute in the building, who you follow to one of the rooms. She'll tell you she knows the code to the safe where Li Hong has hidden the valuable jade artifact, but will only tell you if you help her escape. Needing to murder a guard for their uniform, you'll then be allowed to follow her across the rooftops to a chain-link gate and her apparent freedom. No one tries to stop her, so she probably could have done this without you, but she gives you the combination and tells you there's a CIA agent imprisoned in the basement, which you could have found out by talking to the bartender again. The reason you need to get to the agent, despite not being one of your objectives, is he knows in which safe the valuable jade is hidden, randomized to one of 4 locations, changing every attempt, and if you try the combination on the wrong safe, it'll set off an alarm. To get to the basement, you'll now need to impersonate a Red Dragon Triad member, pass through the kitchen into the basement, find his cell, kill the guard, and get inside. Speak with him, he'll verbally describe where the safe is, then run out and disappear. It was imperative to escort the escort on a short stroll across the roof, but this dude just poofs to safety, creating no ruckus and raising no alarms. Whatever, now you need to get to the jade figure, hopefully able to determine where the safe is by the agent's short explanation, with the map not nearly as helpful as I hoped it would be. Each location has various challenges I won't go through, one of which essentially requiring you to raise an alarm, but you need to eventually get the figure. Next, take it to the herbal shop owner on the main floor who will give you a vial of poison. Li Hong and his bodyguard will now be scripted to come eat at the restaurant. You need to kill and impersonate a waiter, a civilian which deducts 5,000 credits from your income, and walk into the kitchen. This will trigger a short cutscene of the chef commanding you to take the soup to Li Hong, which you can poison right in front of everyone and no one cares. Taking him the soup, his bodyguard tastes it first, dying, raising the alarm, and letting Li Hong flee to his hideout built over water. I mention it's built over water as you'll need to impersonate a Red Dragon Triad member again. You can't use the front door, but a secret passageway which raises in an elevator up from underground and apparently underwater into the hideout. Climb the stairs, see Li Hong, hide in his room, assassinate him, take some stuff off his person, fight or sneak downstairs to a very subtle elevator, descend to a dock, and steal a speedboat to win the level.
Is this your first visit to Hong Kong?
Far from it. Each step is discovered via trial and error, where a million things can go wrong, and it's just not reasonable to assume. I also experienced a lot of bugs or programming flags I don't understand. Examples like only being able to use this ladder when escorting the prostitute and not other times. Falling through a solid glass skylight, not being given the option to talk to the agent, not given the option to poison the soup. And how could you know if these are bugs or the game wants you to do something else? All that complaining aside, this is by far the worst level in this manner, and most others are perfectly reasonable to figure out via some trial and error. Here's my rating of the 13 levels, Li Hong's assassination being the worst, and my favorites mostly being in the second half. That said, if not frustrating, the weird programming flags and questionable logic can again be really funny. Planting a bomb in either a car or drug lab? You'd think you'd have to be crab walk sneaking over there, but have them out, no problem. On the hotel level, you check in, during which you're not given a room or room key, then come back later dressed as someone else with their room key to check their mail. No questions. You can do a complex series of actions to get a flower box with a shotgun hidden inside, but you'll already have the necessary objective and would have to put it down to accept this flower box. Why? Other than the Terminator 2 reference, I guess. Impersonating someone buying illegal arms involves killing a bunch of guard dogs and enemies inside of a warehouse, and the cartoonish arms dealer just ignores the bodies. Lure a guy away from guarding his car by convincing a stripper to give him a private show? It's apparently so awkward. They both just walk away at the same time, and the guy and his buddy instantly leave without needing to say a word to one another. Continuing on a level has me respawning with a bullet hole in my head. I got so lost on this level's ship, it was cold fear all over again. In addition to the weirdness, there's my favorite type of performance issues. Yes, I crashed twice and got stuck in a vase. Those are not my favorite, but there'll be some glorious havoc. You've got to believe me, I found him like that. He was just there and... Oh, okay.
Have mercy!
I'm sure. I have a bill at the bar.
Just follow later, room, my
Excuse
friend.
me? Rude.
Do not drool on the floor.
So I really like the systems, despite some being contrived, less than polished, or unintuitive. With Codename 47 feeling like a game trying something new, it brings me to my fairly typical reflection. What is the most fitting genre? There are specific objectives, the ability to shoot or sneak through obstacles, the amorphous puzzle aspect. Jonas Enneroth called it, somewhat ostentatiously, a thinker shooter. It's fitting, but it's not really a shooter, not really a puzzle game, and calling it just a stealth game seems reductive. Okay, fine. I'll ask the fucking question. Is Hitman an immersive sim?
Suddenly, I'm surrounded by SWAT teams and nutcases.
Well, if you ask the producers, they'd suggest it. Look, I like these discussions despite them not really being my hill to die on. It's like arguing your favorite band's best album. They're just fun, low-stakes debates. However, I've read quite a few staunch denials that Hitman games are immersive sims, but there's little other than the third-person perspective that would exclude them, especially in comparison to something like Thief or BioShock. Since I won't be using the bullshit centrist term of immersive sim light, which essentially means nothing, I'll use the underwhelming classification of a stealth-oriented third-person shooter with a notable amount of emergent gameplay options. If you have a strong opinion in this regard, I'd like to read it in the comments, as something like Weird West is now a top-down isometric game, so if that's sort of considered an immersive sim, I'm not sure how Hitman doesn't apply. Doesn't really matter, I'm just curious to read what you think. Past the more controversial portion of this video, on to the story, which seems the least emphasized in comparison to the gameplay and presentation, but features a really solid ending. Although the story is greatly fleshed out in subsequent entries, it's the year 2000, remember? We're just happy we survived Y2K. Anyway, in the opening flashback, Agent 47 wakes up in a padded cell, being instructed by some coaxing doctor doubling as our tutorial. Clearly he's being formed into some sort of killing machine, being directed rather condescendingly as if he's a child to practice lethal activities. Upon finishing our tutorial, 47 kills some orderly hospital worker type dudes and escapes up a set of stairs while the doctor watches via a surveillance camera and chuckles villainously. Now in the free world, although how this happens is not exactly clear, 47 is now working for an international contract agency, a global, non-government organization like Doctors Without Borders, Save the Children, or Amnesty International, but more for the performance of illegal activities such as murder. Under the direction of his handler, Diana Burnwood, 47 is given contracts provided by the ICA, earning him his cut upon completing the missions. Now, since the overall plot is incredibly simple, I'll save the rest of the narrative for the spoiler section, but I will mention that basically nothing regarding Diana or the ICA is covered in the franchise debut, focusing almost exclusively on 47's background. With that being said, jump forward to the time on screen now to avoid the spoilers. While you're deciding, I want to admit to really thinking I was onto something when I saw the same woman in a purple dress in both Lee Hong's restaurant and the Hotel Gallard. Is this the elusive Diana Burnwood, watching her operative while undercover? I started looking for her in other levels, but what did I expect? Some lady in a dress out in the jungle? In some mob-controlled dockyard? Wait a minute. No way. As much as I like speculating on deeper subtext, I'll ask it to you this way. Is Placid Plastic Duck Simulator about sitting back after the world has ended? I think it's fair to conclude they may have just reused an asset here. Paying close attention to NPCs is something I typically do just for fun. I think it harkens back to my sister and I watching movies together. We'd play a game where we'd pick a character from the film we would play if given the option. Never bold or self-important enough to select the lead or even supporting characters, it was always some oddball extra. We'd be watching a scene like this.
Big fat ugly bug-faced baby eating O'Brien? Hi.
And she'd turn to me and solemnly say, me. In Hitman Codename 47's case, if I was any character, I think I'd be the pissed off chef.
Leave my kitchen at once! I'm calling security in 10 seconds if you don't leave!
Alright, let's break down the 12 missions following the tutorial. The first 4 involve dismantling a criminal gang named the Red Dragon Triad in Hong Kong, rescuing a prostitute named Lei Ling and a CIA agent named Carlton Smith in the process, before assassinating the leader, Li Hong. The subsequent 3 contracts involve undermining and destroying a Colombian drug cartel before eliminating its leader, Pablo Ochoa. On a single mission detour to Budapest, 47 takes out a pair of Austrian Nazi-sympathizing international terrorist brothers named Franz and Fritz Fuchs. Then 2 subsequent missions in Rotterdam to eliminate a gun-runner syndicate and assassinate its Russian leader named Arkady Jegorov. In between a few of the levels, we see vague, brief cutscenes of several multinational people's silhouettes discussing Agent 47, complimenting his abilities and keeping tabs on him. They sound as if they have a cartoonish Chinese accent, Russian, Colombian, Austrian, and the 5th voice clearly being the doctor from the opening flashback. They discuss having each contributed part of their DNA, taking the best parts of each member to create 47. So it's clear Agent 47 is likely a clone manufactured from a combination of this evil cabal, but these cutscenes appear after completing assassinations. Are they flashbacks? If so, who is having them killed? It seems almost too coincidental for them to be other people altogether, doesn't it? Additionally, if 47 is a clone, his name suggests a previous 46 and possible however many to follow. Is the ICA run by this doctor manufacturing perfect assassins? Well, that final question is answered by our next contract to an asylum in Satu Mare, Romania. Diana Burnwood is not feeling good about the mission as she's discovered the previous series of contracts, all completed during the time of this game, were commissioned by the same customer. The ICA tried to cut off the business relationship, but the customer paid top dollar and demanded only one more mission, requiring it be completed by Agent 47. Not only is this ominous because your handler doesn't feel good about it, but the level is called The Setup. It has highly ominous cover art, and you're not allowed to enter with a weapon. We discover we've arrived at the same location as the initial training. The asylum above, filled with empty rooms and skipping patients, is a cover for clandestine genetic and cloning experiments beneath, from which 47 escaped. Upon arrival, the doctor, now identified as the German Otto Wolfgang Ortmeyer, calls a SWAT team, more accurately a Special Actions and Intervention Service team, as we're in Romania, to come eliminate 47, now locked inside the location of his birth? Creation? Anyway, upon many reloads, when we finally determine what we're meant to do, we approach another doctor which 47 recognizes.
You were the one with a needle.
Knocking him out with some sort of sedative discovered in a nearby bathroom, 47 can do what he does best, steal his outfit and travel unhindered by the cartoonishly efficient SAIS team. Although if you're not disguised, it's very polite of them to wait until your dialogue is finished before efficiently killing you.
The professor conducted experiments long ago. DNA, cloning.
I'll be with you in a second.
Please find the antidote. It's in the cage. Look for it. It's very small. It's in the cage. Look for it. It's very small.
Oh, shit. Here he finds the same CIA guy who was locked in the basement of Lee Hong's hideout, Carlton Smith, under the influence of some drug. Finding and using the antidote for that drug on Carlton, he leads 47 to the secret facility beneath the asylum, into our final level. Here we learn the truth. Dr. Ortmeyer commissioned 47 to arrive here in an attempt to tie up loose ends. He was the one contracting the ICA to eliminate the other genetic contributors to the cloning program, the fifth being himself. They had an agreement to manufacture a cloned army for personal gain, contributing DNA and funds for the project, until Dr. Ortmeyer used their rogue agent to eliminate them. Now, 47 is the only loose end left, and Ortmeyer summoned him for either the SAIS team or his clones to get him out of the way. Yep, the final level is a showdown against other clones through a facility of weird organic materials, and the other clones are incredibly dangerous. Their AI is effective at hit-and-run tactics, flanking, and deal a shit ton of damage. We discover clones emerge from a sort of automated closet, scanning their barcodes and releasing them. Broccolini, $3.99. Why they couldn't microchip them like dogs, I don't know, but here's why we have the barcode tattoo. Clearly we have to break into this clone manufacturing area, but once we get inside, there's nothing to do and we just get knocked out if we stepped on the scanning spot. So, we need to kill a clone, drag his body into the room, and scan it to open the door. Oh shit, there's a ton of them. How the hell can I win this? And their smiles are, disconcerting. In looting the area for anything that can help, you find something that'll do the trick. Getting into the room carrying a minigun is incredibly difficult, as it slows you down and has a spin-up time, but you mow down manufactured copies of yourself on the path to murder your last remaining father.
You have proved to be my favorite son. I am so proud of you. I should have known. I didn't even recognize my own son. You broke my heart, my son. What good is a bullet-proof vest when death strikes from within?
It's incredibly satisfying. There is an alternative ending if you let him get too close. He stun guns you and it mirrors the beginning of the game. But the canon ending is 47 finishes off his creator. The camera pans up and reveals the Hitman logo. I really like the overarching plot, although very little time is spent on. There are references to the Cabal communicating with each other and getting impatient with Ortmeyer, but it's all very peripheral. If you think about any detail too much, you can find minor plot holes, but they're mainly funny to think about. Why these guys' DNA? Because they're financial backers, it's like a Patreon reward? Or because they bring something special to the table? I guess being really good at different types of crime? Or why is 47 named 47? Well, during his villainous monologue, Ortmeyer says the secret to unlocking humans' greater potential is adding a 47th chromosome.
I discovered the true power of 47 chromosomes.
Humans naturally have 46 chromosomes and can have 47 in genetic anomalies like Klinefelter or Down syndrome, but I believe Ortmeyer doesn't mean adding a third chromosome where there's supposed to be a pair, but a new addition altogether. Maybe 48, what he calls the other clones you kill at the end,
48. Now there's a loyal, trusting clone.
Has that manufactured chromosome paired? I don't know. And it seems the canon explanation is the name is the release number, like patch notes or edition of a novel, as later entries will mention an Agent 17 and Agent 81. As for this debut game, details are not worth focusing on, as the plot is neat and the writing overall is not that great. Every enemy/father is a direct reference or type of guy you've seen before, one of which being a copy of Al Pacino's character Tony Montana from Scarface, the level to assassinate him even named after the most famous line from that movie.
Say hello to my little friend!
Maybe the only archetype that isn't obviously familiar is Franz Fuchs, but that's because he's based on a real Austrian mail bomber named Franz Fuchs, responsible for killing 4 people and injuring 15, ending his own life in prison 9 months prior to the game's release. The cultural depictions are also weird, as Chinese characters hit you with poorly written platitudes and Colombian natives have dumb dialogue. Where I think the, perhaps not so strong writing, accidentally excels is in the character of 47. Prior to playing any games in the series, I assumed 47 would be cold, calculating, professional, barely having a personality at all, and just being a killer. However, much to Codename 47's benefit, his personality is expounded from rather clunky dialogue. He's not suave or charismatic, maybe not even good at being secretive.
Looks like Mr. Wolf is in room 202.
What about you, mister?
I'm here on business, looking for Mr. Li Hong. Actually, I'm looking for his safe.
I see.
He constantly seems out of place, which combines to be really funny, like he's the epitome of hiding in plain sight. It's so obvious that it couldn't be him, right? I really liked him as a character and delighted in any time he said anything.
Ah, so this is Hong Kong.
In looking at cut content, I was super thankful to discover that he wasn't the initially planned quippy wisecracker making pop culture references.
One less taxpayer. There's no time to kill like the present. I feel like a Death Star. I am your worst nightmare.
But an awkward, uncharismatic sore thumb. He was manufactured in a tube. He shouldn't be charismatic, and Bateson's ambiguous accent is perfectly fitting for that backstory. In welcoming back our spoiler avoiders, I really enjoyed Codename's 47 story. It's trope-ridden, not particularly complex and not particularly well written, but strangely iconic and a lot of fun. The credits are fun too, as despite no actors directly being named other than Bateson, the support section cites an Else Anderson as doing everything, and Tanya Rao and Cecile Berg-Heising for food and more food respectively, so shout out to them. And of course the final credit, don't call us, we're on vacation. Hitman Codename 47 may be the worst game in the series, but I can't tell you that. I was shocked as to how much I enjoyed it, how iconic the character of Agent 47 felt, and how smart the gameplay can be at times, mostly really funny when it's not smart. If this is the worst game in the series, I have a lot to look forward to. So, in rating in each of my categories and compiling into a grade, Hitman Codename 47 falls in between Forgive Me Father and Typing of the Dead Overkill in my category for genre enthusiasts. If you like stealth games or immersive sims, you'll likely enjoy Hitman, even with this debut entry. Although it goes without saying if particularly dated graphics are bothersome to you, maybe skip this one. With that said, thanks so much for watching and joining me on the spin of the wheel of every game ever made. My name is Harvey Bodega, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks a lot.
What's new and exciting around here?
Obviously, you are not invited here, mister.
I'm here on business. I have contractual obligations.
No. In fact, leave immediately.
My aim is to handle this delicate matter.
No.
I need to use the bathroom.
I know exactly what you mean, sir. You're not allowed in here.
I need a few minutes to use the bathroom.
No.
Please, where do I go for some action?
This door is closed.
That girl has a lot of talent.
Leave immediately.
No. I need to use the bathroom. I need the bathroom. I need the bathroom. Use the bathroom. I need to use the bathroom. The bathroom.